The Gluck poll, slight majority says no, it was not a good race. I think it's still 44-56. It's hard for some fans, I think, to complain about any super speedway race due to the unpredictable nature of it. But I think regardless of how you feel, there's no denying that the Xfinity race was different, at least from the Cup Series race in terms of how the finish played out.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that side-by-side comparison in the current conversation about how the Cup Series race finished yesterday?
Yeah, when I actually just saw that video like an hour ago because I just haven't been around X too much this weekend, but I did see that there, and it was just a request from Denny Hamlin on Actions Detrimental, so he's just able to request. He's like, I'm sure someone on X will do this if I ask nicely. But what they did, they got the side by side. The first thing I was looking for, I thought I was about to see the Xfinity cars like getting around a lap quicker than the Cup cars. I thought at first I didn't know what the whole thing was about, so I thought that's what I was looking for at first. But then I had to watch it again when I found out that's not the case. Cup cars are actually going a little bit faster as they should. They're at Talladega in the draft, but yeah, the racing is clearly a lot more compelling on the Xfinity side of the table, and I hate that it's that way. But I mean, looking at the Cup race at the end, the Xfinity race on Saturday, I was on my feet. I was all right, it's getting down to it, one lap to go. There's not many races that I don't know. There's not too many races that get you off on your feet like Talladega. So that was definitely compelling to me as I saw it, and also going back to watch it again. The Cup race, it was somewhat compelling to me at the end. I got to stand on my word. I did say that it was a good race for what it's worth. I mean, for what we have, I know nothing's perfect. The car's not perfect. The racing's not perfect. But for what it's worth, that was a pretty good Talladega Cup race. And you're not going to hear me complain too much about it. I'm not going to contribute to that. You can, if you want to find people complaining about it, you know where to go. But like, I don't know. We complain so much that like I was fine with it for what it's worth. Like, I know it'll get better one day, maybe, but the Xfinity Series has got it going on, and that side by side showed that.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. I understand. Believe me, I understand the fans' concerns. I understand what the Gluck poll is where it's at. I cannot complain about that finish. The fact that it wasn't a single file train. I mean, and some people say it was basically two side by side single file trains, I guess. But we finished in regulation under green without a big wreck. That's honest. At this point, that is the anomaly, and that is a win in my book. I guess what I would say is, kind of to bring the broke joke woke meme format back, I guess you could say broke is like super speedway racing used to be good. Joke is super speedway racing is always good, and woke, which is maybe where I fall in this situation, would be super speedway racing was never good, because you see, I've seen people clip posts of that single file train from the mid 2000s and clips of people saving fuel and strategies playing out, and it's like, how is this any different than what we saw this weekend? And I think the counter to that would be the Xfinity Series. But I don't. The more I have matured, the more that I just kind of look back, and whether it's the tandem drafting era or pack racing or the Gen 6 era or whatever rules package we have here, everybody's in a massive pack. There's any sort of potential at any given moment for a driver to make a mistake and a wrong move to end your day, not of your own doing. And, a lot of it is just because these races are 500 miles. I don't think either Talladega race really needs to be 500 miles, because a lot of it is just riding around and fuel saving. And then, because of the culture that we have created nowadays, almost every time you get under 10 laps and somebody inevitably pulls a ill-advised block or tries to make a hole fit where it doesn't, and we end up with multiple overtimes and $1 million junkyard in the infield at Daytona or Talladega. And I'm sorry, I don't like that.
There was no overtimes on Sunday or Saturday.
Well, that is true. But as we'll talk about in a second, the Xfinity race did not get their green flag finish. So
it's almost as if they ended under yellow to me. That's how I saw it. Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I understand. And again, I know that's an unpopular opinion for me to have, because, there are a lot of fans that only watch the super speedway races because, the thrill and the adrenaline that a 200 mile an hour pack can bring. And again, if you're in that 40, whatever it is, 44% or whatever, I'm happy for you. You know, I'm certainly not going to be one of these fans that's saying like anybody who's saying yes is just a yes man paid off by NASCAR to be a corporate shill, and they don't know what they're talking about, and they don't know good racing when they see it. I'm happy to agree to disagree. If you liked what you saw, I'm happy for you. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, you know, that you need to criticize it. I do agree. You do the same for me and respect my opinion, and accept that it's just not for me. And that's where we can leave it there.
I do agree with the corporate shills that 4-wide racing and where you're not actually trying, you're just conserving fuel at the beginning. That's still really compelling to me. I'm telling you,
I get visually it's better than the train. I will give you that. But it's just when it's marketed as, oh, look, this is 8.5 minutes of nonstop 4-wide racing in a pack. And I know better to know that they're just saving fuel. They're just riding around. They're not actually, it's not like the 4-wide we saw in 2012, the finish to that fall race before Tony Stewart threw that block and Dale Jr. got concussed. And it was a massive, I think that's now the second biggest wreck we've ever had in the Cup Series, because we broke that record last year, unfortunately. That was a half a lap away from being awesome and truly epic. And it's unfortunate that they couldn't bring it through turns 3 and 4 and 3. Although maybe if they had, they would have just wrecked him a trial anyway. I don't know. But that was awesome. That was compelling. I don't think you can compare that 4-wide by 4x4x4 all the way back to, you know, what we saw last fall or what we saw yesterday to a lesser extent as well.
Well, sure. But let me say it this way. Would you rather have fuel saving 4 abreast, or would you rather have it 2020 Daytona dual style where it's a choo-choo train on the
I'd rather have it 4 abreast. I can give you that.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's how they market it. They market it as,
sure. Yeah, that's
look at this 4-wide insanity when
if you got it, use it, I guess. If you're a TV broadcaster, that's your mindset.
And I understand everything's about, you know, posting for clicks and for engagement.
Absolutely.
And we certainly know that business, you and I both, obviously, right? But it's just like, well, I know that, you know, it's not actually like everybody's got everything under control, right? These are professionals. They know how to, it's like you're driving down. Don't quote me on this. I think Chase Briscoe was the one that responded to Junior's tweet, because Junior was saying like, I'm on a plane, I can't watch How's the Race. And he was like, imagine I-77 at 200 miles an hour or something like that, like a traffic jam. And I don't know.
Listen,
it's not like the finish of 2012. That's just, if they're 4-wide, and that's where the similarities end.
Imagine the happy-go-lucky fan is your 5-year-old son. You're going out to see this mascot at a baseball game. Now, you know the mascot is some guy in a suit, but to your kid, that's like the best thing ever.
Sure.
Let them have fun for the beginning of the race, and let the dad's going to play along with the son. That's the way I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying like, oh, these kids should be, you know, shaking their fists like they're the old men yelling at the clouds or whatever.
Yeah, you and I both know.
Up with us, like, like
you and I both know they're going 40% at 50%, and they're holding on. Yeah.
Yeah. The first race I ever watched was the fall Talladega race in 06.
Right.
You know, and again, I saw our friend Matthew Owens included this in his tweet. He was saying like that. I think that was one of the screenshots that he used, was they were single file with 2 laps to go. Junior was trying to hold off Jimmy Johnson and Brian Vickers, and you know, that's hardly the greatest Talladega finish ever. But to me, as a kid who had just seen Pixar's Cars in theaters and was just trying to eat, you know, everything up I could of the sport, like I loved it. And I recognized Junior from the Cars movie because he had a cameo there, and I was pulling for him on the last lap and was upset when he got taken out. Like, you know, you view it through a different lens when you're a 7-year-old versus, you know, a 25-year-old trying to be a pundit and, you know, look to provide constructive criticism of the sport which you fell in love with when you were a kid. So,
and just imagine if you were there as a kid seeing that. Like, oh my goodness,
that would have been an experience for sure.
Yeah.